Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So today it is time for my mid-year freak out book tag. I'm going to talk a teensy little bit about my statistics for the first 6 months of 2022 and then dive right into the tag's questions. So far in 2022, I have DNF'd 6 books, which I hope to put out a video soon about which 6 books and why, so keep an eye out for that. But I have finished 59 books, which I am pleasantly pleased with. That so far is a total of 19,728 pages by my count, and my proportion of physical to ebooks to audiobooks is 19% physical books, which I think has been increased by the number of graphic novels I've been reading and some mangas, and then ebooks and audiobooks are about equal at 42% and 39% respectively. So diving into the questions for the tag, the first question is, what is the best book you have read so far in 2022? And starting with a tough one. In an attempt to not say the same couple books over and over and over and over, I have landed on Seek You by Kristen Radke. I did talk about this in one of my previous videos. If I can figure out which one that is, I will link that up in the cards. But basically, this is a nonfiction title that really hit me unexpectedly. It's all about loneliness, especially in today's day and age, and I do think that there's a strongly American point of view based on the subtitle, but also it talks a lot about how loneliness affects people and how we can work on overcoming this and just kind of dealing with this, acknowledging that this is a component of our lives, especially in today's day and age. And so many of the quotes in this book really resonated with me, and for that it just kind of stuck out and was sort of an unexpected winner for me in my book. So that's what I landed on for my best of 2022. I will say, similar to Jess Owens, I will say so far my year has been pretty mid. It's been kind of medium. I don't feel like there were a ton of really strong standouts, nor a ton of like strong disappointments. But you know, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. So the second question of this tag is, what is the best sequel I have read so far this year? And I haven't really read too many sequels, but I did end up choosing Always Only You by Chloe Leese. This is the second book in the Bergman Brothers series, though like most romance series, this is a companion novel. And I really loved Chloe Leese. You will see her and some of her books show up a couple times on this list. The third question is, what is a new release that new recent release that I still need to read? And the list is very long, but 2 that I know for sure I want to get to soon are Something Wilder by Christina Lauren and also Book Lovers by Emily Henry, both of which I have checked out on physical format from my library, and both of which are already due back, and neither of which I have started. So doing great, really, really doing great. Question 4 is, what is an anticipated release for the second half of the year that I really can't wait for? I don't really keep super on top of new releases and their dates that are coming out. I do know that Husband Material by Alexis Hall is coming out soon, and I think it's in August, and I can't wait to get to that one. I did a review video on the first book of that series, and I'll leave a link up in the cards to that, but I really, really loved Boyfriend Material, so I'm excited for Husband Material. The fifth question is, what is a book that I've read so far this year that has been a disappointment? Well, other than the DNFs, which I'm not going to mention, I will say that actually the first book that I finished in 2022, Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Sutanto, I just didn't really have a good time with it. I was kind of confused, and I went in with high hopes, so I think I had higher expectations, and that's why it kind of came off as a fumble for me. I will also mention that a romance book that had been recommended to me multiple times was Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams, and I just didn't super connect with that book either, so I felt like that was kind of a disappointment for me. And also a recent read, which was a nonfiction title, Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Oof, that one I'm still really considering doing a individual book review for that book because it just did not land well for me at all. I would say that's one of my lowest rated so far this year, even though I don't like rate nonfiction titles. That book just really did not work for me. I did not like its structure or its like content, and it had a lot of feels. So All three of those books were major disappointments for me so far this year. Question 6 is, what was a big surprise for me so far this year? I ended up choosing for this question, A Place for Us by Fatima Farheen Mirza. I just recently did a full book review video on that title, which I will leave up in the cards. This one was a surprise just because I hadn't been expecting to really thoroughly enjoy and experience this family and their dynamics and this like long family drama when it was a book club book that I didn't pick and it was a literary fiction title. Both of those things, I just kind of went into it with really low expectations and felt blown out of the water. So it ended up being a surprise for me, and elevating it to a higher status was the fantastic book club discussion that I had with my book club in real life. So that discussion just kind of elevated my opinion of that book and landed it here in that surprise category for me. The next question is, what is a favorite new debut or new to me author that I have found in 2022? And for this, I chose Chloe Leese. I've only read a couple of her books, both in the Bergman Brothers series, but there's something about her writing style that's super appealing to me, and I can't wait to read more from both that series as well as some of her other titles, because I feel like she just I had a really good time with both of her books and can't wait to read more of her material. I like her writing style a lot. I also read 5 books by Amanda Milo earlier this year in a Stolen by an Alien series. I'll leave a link to a video I did about that series. And there was something about her writing style that really grabbed my attention and sucked me in. I had some complaints about some of those titles, either content-wise or sort of their structure, but I can't deny that there was something about her writing style that really appeals to me, and so I felt like Amanda Milo also deserved a mention here as a new to me author that I super enjoyed. The next question is a newest fictional crush. I don't really feel like I develop fictional crushes on characters in this day and age, but I will say that skimming through the titles I've already read so far this year, one of the books jumped out at me, and that was Bittersweet by Serena Bowen. The main male character in this book, his name is Griffin, and he is a gruffy. He's scruffy and like gruff, and he's also like so sweet, and he cares so much about our main female character, and also he's like hot and ripped, and he is competent because he brews cider and also is running a farm. So there was a lot to appreciate about that character, so I felt like he was a very standout main male character, and that's why I chose him for this question. Question 9 is new favorite character. Sort of a similar situation here. I don't feel like characters, I don't want to say characters don't make a lasting impression on me, but it was tough to choose someone as a new favorite character. One of my recent reads was Real by Kennedy Ryan, and I will say that Neva, the main female character from that book, really stuck out to me because she was so like happy and so gung-ho. She just really felt like she had a lot of joie de vivre. She felt like she jumped off the page to me, and so I felt like that was a character that I could be friends with in real life, and really she was sticking out to me a lot when I was figuring out who I wanted to pick for this question. The next question is, what is a book that made me cry? I do feel like there was a couple different times, because I'm kind of a sucker for crying, where I had, the glisten or had a single tear down my cheek. But I will say that Only When It's Us by Chloe Leese, the first of the Bergman brothers, definitely got a few tears out of me, because it has a number of strong emotional beats that hit me, and it just hit me right in the feels. I will also say that A Spark of Light by Jodi Picoult was another kind of hard-hitting book that had hit me right in the feels, and it was a lot. It deals with a lot of heavy topics, so definitely keep that in mind if you choose to read that book. It deals with abortion issues, so and also like a shooting at an abortion center, so that's especially a hot topic at this point in our history, but it definitely hit me a lot in my emotions when I read that earlier this year. The next question is, what is a book that made me happy? And I will say that I reread Heartstopper volumes 1 and 2 this year in anticipation of the show coming out, and those books are just a warm hug, a warm hug. The show I thought was an amazing adaptation and also conveys that same similar feeling of the emotions and how the whole thing is just so warm and like loving. So Heartstopper, I can't recommend that book enough. It definitely is a book that made me happy. And even though it was a reread, I would say it was near the top of every book that I've read so far this year as to what made me the happiest when I was reading it. The next question is, what is the most beautiful cover of a book that you have either purchased or received? And literally the only book that is new to me this year that I have received is Seek You by Kristen Radke. So if we're going to be super literal about this question, that is literally the only book that I have purchased and or received to add to my collection. If we go based on all the books that I've read, because I pretty much get everything from either the library or I had a Kindle Unlimited gift subscription earlier in this year, there were a number of standout covers, which I'll put here. Mostly they have shirtless male specimens on them because I love me a good, rippling abs shot. But I will say that Real in particular has a very striking cover. I love the colors of all that like gold and yellow contrasted with the red dress. And I feel like the chemistry looks palpable between our cover models. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Real as the top one with some honorable mentions. And the last question is, what are some titles that you need to read by the end of the year? I wouldn't say that there's very many that I need to read by the end of the year. I definitely have Ace with a whole long subtitle, which I'll put here. I think that's by Angela Chen. I have that checked out from the library and really want to get to it. It's been something that's been on my TBR multiple times. So I really would like to get to that book, but I'm hoping to get to it very soon. And otherwise, I honestly feel like I kind of need a little bit of a romance break. Didn't think I'd be saying that. I don't know if part of my answers to this question is spurred because I feel that I am in a little bit of a reading slump at the time of me filming this, but I do kind of want to try some more thrillers and fantasy and maybe some sci-fi, maybe I can do some fantasy romance or sci-fi romance and kind of ease into that. But I'm kind of thinking that I want the second half of the year to be things that are a little bit more varied of genre-wise, but I don't really have specific titles that I need to read by the end of the year. If you have any titles that you think I should be reading, either in like a fantasy romance or one of those categories I just mentioned, or if you think that there's something that I have overlooked, an upcoming title, new release that I did not mention here because I literally only mentioned I think one, definitely leave that down in the comments. I would super appreciate it. I love getting recommendations, especially something that you're super excited for or that you loved. So thanks so much for watching this video, and let me know also down in the comments if you have done this tag so I can go and check it out. Thanks so much for watching. Bye! What are you doing, cat? What are you doing, huh? You causing trouble?